Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome again to the Department of Aviation's Good Neighbor Program Community Meeting. In case you're not aware, we host these meetings quarterly with the goal of providing updates on some of the major projects we're working on at the airport, as well as soliciting feedback or suggestions on ways we can enhance our operations, and most of all, be better partners to the neighborhood surrounding Love Field. Again, my name is Helena Thompson. I'm a Senior Program Manager in the Department of Aviation. And among other things, I am in charge of the Good Neighbor program, so I'm particularly pleased to be with you as co-host this evening. Next slide, Hillary. Okay, couple of housekeeping items before we get started. If you need help at any time, you can send a chat to staff through the live event Q&A feature, which is located to the right of your screen. Please note your video and audio have been muted for purposes of this presentation. Please feel free to ask a question by using the same feature. And for our Spanish speakers, we've posted or will post the presentation in Spanish on the same link. I want to go ahead and encourage you to ask any questions that you have. We have received a number of questions ahead of time, which we'll be answering at the end of this presentation. But please feel free to ask a question at any time during our event this evening. Next slide. Once again, I welcome you to the Good Neighbor Program meeting. We're very honored to have with us a very special guest this evening, Councilmember Jennifer Gates from District 13. And I know that she would like to say a few words, so at this time I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Gates.
Ms. Gates, good evening, and thanks everybody for attending tonight. I just wanted to welcome the neighborhood and thank you for staying engaged in what's happening in the surrounding area, and to let you know that my office is available, my office as well as Mayor Pro Tem Adam Medrano and Councilmember Navarez, which all surround Love Field. So we are here to serve you and your voice at City Hall related to these issues. I've looked through the presentation and I know we're making a lot of great improvements. Actually, on tomorrow's agenda, we have an agenda item related to the entrance. I think that's going to be mentioned tonight. The improvements that are going to be on the major entrance off Mockingbird Lane will be authorized tomorrow. So we're going to talk about Bachmann Lake, and as you know, the council members all want to make sure that is maintained as a recreational asset to the city and to the surrounding neighborhoods, and we're hopeful that these enhancements and connectivity to the neighborhoods and these projects will proceed. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it back over and let you guys enjoy the program. If there's particular questions that you want me to answer, I'll be listening in. And again, though, my office is available going forward if there's follow-up questions or concerns that you have related to Love Field. So thank you all.
Next slide, please. Okay, just as your lives have been affected by the pandemic, so have operations at Love Field. And throughout these last 10 months, we have never closed, and staff has been working hard behind the scenes to provide a safe environment for all of our passengers. The safety and well-being of our guests and employees is our #1 priority. We've installed hand sanitizing stations throughout the airport and have quadrupled our cleaning and sanitization efforts. You can find updates on all of the measures we have undertaken to provide a clean and safe environment on our website at dallas-lovefield.com. Next slide. In terms of our agenda for this evening, tonight I'll be giving you an overview of the GMB program, and then I'm going to turn it over to our third-tier executive, Cliff York, who will be providing you an update on some of the projects that you see listed on this slide. Then I will come back and talk about our community engagement updates. And then finally, we're going to turn it over to our PIO, Chris Perry, who will be moderating questions as they come in. Next slide, please. I know a number of you have joined us for previous presentations. However, I think it's important for those of you who are joining us for the first time to give you a brief overview of this program. The Good Neighbor program grew out of the 2015 master plan as a community outreach component. It's our way of connecting with the community to assist us with future ideas and planning input. As some of you may be aware, the airport owns land outside the terminal, and in keeping with the city's goals of creating livable, walkable, and interconnected neighborhoods, we want to extend planning to the community surrounding the airport. Our mission is to do all the good that we can in all the ways that we can. Next slide. Here on this slide, you can see some of our goals that are listed. Of course, we want to focus on off-airport urban design, landscaping and beautification, parks, trails, and recreational activities, signage and traffic movements, and pedestrian improvements. Our director, Mark Diebner, has a saying, which I think perfectly sums up the goals of this program. We are an airport that happens to be in the middle of a community, but our goal is to be a community that happens to be located around an airport. Next slide. And again, some of you may have seen this from previous presentations, but for our new, the people who have joined us newly this evening, these are our target areas, which basically extend all the way around the airport. Lemon Avenue to the east, Shorecrest to the north, Denton Drive to the west, and Mockingbird to the south. And then, of course, you'll see Herb Kelleher Way, which is at the entrance to the airport. I'm now going to turn the presentation over to Cliff York, who's going to provide you with information on some of the projects we're working on. Cliff?
Thank you very much. Next slide, please. Welcome, everybody. My name is Cliff York, third-tier executive for the Aviation Department. I'm in the Capital Development Program. Hope you guys are all having a good and safe year so far, and maintain that with wearing masks and other precautions. Just wanted to go through some of our capital projects that we've got planned for this year. Most of them are in either a design phase or getting ready to be undergo construction. The one item that we're not going to cover tonight is going to be the alternate entry. For those that aren't aware, that project is currently being paused for an overall study on what's the best option, and the North Central Council of Government is heavily involved in that. But the projects that we're going to be talking about tonight are the Lemon Avenue Streetscape, the Entry Road project, which Councilmember Gates mentioned earlier. That's the entry at Mockingbird and Herb Kelleher Way. The Lemon Avenue and Bluffview intersection projects, the Love Field Loop Trail, and the Runway 13 right, 31 left reconstruction project, which I'm sure is going to be very interesting for the community. There will be some noise impacts associated with that. And then we do try to maintain all of our information on our projects on our webpage. So if you do have any questions, you can go check that out. And if you don't get the answer to your questions, please feel free to email us and we will respond to your questions. Go ahead and next slide, please. So the first project, this is not really an aviation project. Aviation is involved, but because it's so close to the airport and the aviation offices, we are monitoring this project very, very closely, and that's the Lemon Avenue Bluffview intersection. This project is currently under construction. Most of the paving lanes have been completed. It's supposed to be currently scheduled for completion in the first quarter of 2021. There have been some lane closures on Lemon Avenue. Additional work that still needs to be done is traffic signal installation along with pedestrian walkways in this area. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. As we mentioned earlier, we are getting ready to award the Entry Road Enhancement project. We're very, very excited about this project. It's going to be awarded at council tomorrow. We plan to remove all of the bollard lighting that's currently on Herb Kelleher Way and replace it with overhead street lights. That's a project that's been in our interest for a number of years, because we do know how those lighting bollards are not the best for driving conditions at night. But this project is mainly going to be centered on Herb Kelleher Way, from Mockingbird Lane up to the terminal on both sides of the roadway, and then we're replacing the Love Field entry sign, and we're adding a new sculpture at the airport entrance as well. Go ahead and go to the next slide. The Runway 13 right, 31 left project is scheduled to begin about March with some enabling work. The runway is planned to be shut down for 9 to 10 months, beginning April 2021. We've done everything possible to keep this down to the minimum for the interest of the public, as well as the interest of the airlines serving the airport. But as you can imagine, when you reconstruct a runway that's 8,000 feet long, it does take some time to perform that work. During the time that the runway is closed, all operations will move over to the Lemon Avenue runway. We do know that there's going to be some additional noise impacts in that area. There's only so much that we can do to control what the noise levels are in the area. We are going to be sending out a direct mailer to the people that live within the targeted zip codes, and that mailer, you should start seeing that in February. Again, you can also check the Dallas Love Field website and the social media accounts for any updates on that. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So the runway project itself has multiple phases. As I said, we're going to probably start work in March with phase 1, and that starts working on some enabling work, and that's what you see in yellow on this image. And phase 2 and phase 3 are the phases which the runway will be closed. We do have some continuing work beyond the runway closure phase, but it should not impact the ability to use the runway and the taxiways on the west side of the airfield. When we're all said and done, we'll have new exit taxiways for the aircraft to minimize their operational restraints and provide better exit points for the aircraft, and just overall increase the efficiencies of the airport itself. Go ahead and go to the next slide. The airport's excited to be working with the National Park Service on a loop trail program. We're working with along Lemon Avenue. We're trying to tie the project that we have, the Streetscape project, there with the Bachmann Lake area project, to be able to have an overall loop trail all the way around the airport. The Lemon Avenue project is going to be the first phase, and we hope to take that continuously, like I said, around the airport. We're currently working extensively with COG as well as the National Park Service to coordinate all the activities. Next slide, please. So we're briefing a little bit about the Bachmann Lake area planning study as well. This is something that's taken on by the North Central Council of Governments, of which aviation is participating along with many other city departments. You can see the area identified here in red. This is the area that's part of the COG study. And so they'll be looking at mobility and safety issues in the Bachmann Lake area, access to Bachmann Lake and the nearby trails, the DART station, access to the DART station. They are also going to be taking a look at the access. What's the best access for the alternate entry into Love Field? So they're taking a very comprehensive look at the overall mobility in this study area. Next slide. So North Central Council of Government held a kickoff meeting on October 1st with TxDOT, various city departments. The outcome of the meeting, they worked with the partnership with the National Park Service on a survey. You can go out to the COG website along with the Dallas Love Field website in order to participate in the study itself. We're looking for feedback of all types. Go ahead and go to the next slide. The survey is available in both English, Spanish, and Korean, and we're soliciting input through the end of February. As of early January, we've already had 333 responses. There's been 36 zip codes registered as part of the study. One of the things that we need some feedback from is responses from younger adults, which are being underrepresented in the study so far. So if you know somebody, please encourage them to help us and participate in that study. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So the next project that we're currently in design on is the Lemon Avenue Streetscape project. We plan to install a bike path / pedestrian pathway along the northeast side of Lemon Avenue and tie it into the Bachmann Lake Trail. We've had several meetings already with the community on the development and received a number of feedback. As part of this project, we're also going to be developing a couple of pocket parts. One's at Midway Manor, and the other is what we call the North Neighborhood Park, which is on the north side of Bachmann Lake and north of Northwest Highway. Go ahead and go to the next slide. This is the current project schedule. We've completed the first 2 steps in the process. The design is supposed to be continuing until roughly the summer of 2021, and construction would start later in 2021. We will provide additional updates as it goes on through the GNP and other topics. Again, this is also this information can be found on the Dallas Love Field Capital Development website. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So this slide just represents a little bit more detail of what's being planned along Lemon Avenue. We are also going to be doing a primary gateway feature on the large triangle area at Airdrome and Lemon Avenue. So we're working closely with the FAA to make sure it doesn't interfere with the runway usage, because that is right in the approach to the runway. We have restrictions on what we can do there because it is right in the approach to the runway itself. But overall, we plan to have a continuous trail along the northeast side of Lemon Avenue, tying in the various parks, the Midway Manor Park, and then we will make a connection from Northwest Highway up to the North Neighborhood Park as part of this project as well. Next slide, please. So the Braniff Center is a continuing development of a redevelopment of the existing facility that's out along Lemon Avenue. This is not an airport project, it is a tenant project of the airport. Already a large portion of the project has been completed. There is a Planet Lincoln car dealership there, along with a corporate aviation hangar facilities, and they're going to be moving into the next phase of their development. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So the next slide, they're currently working on an additional hangar for more corporate aircraft. In addition to the additional hangar development, Venture X is supposed to be starting work on interior of the Brandon Center development, and there's currently plans for a Callaway's nursery on the southeast side of their parking facility. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And that's the updates for me for the capital development. I'll turn it back over to Helena.
Thank you, Cliff. So I know that I had the slide in the last presentation from our meeting in October, but it was it's so important to us and such an honor. I just wanted to take a minute to talk about it for the new folks who are joining us for the first time. So during the last quarter of 2020, basically from October to December, Love Field won the first place in J.D. Power and Associates Airport Satisfaction Study. We also placed in Travel and Leisure's top 10 domestic airports for the 5th straight year in a row. So we conduct monthly live surveys through something called ASQ, or Airport Service Quality, and they actually go out and interview passengers in our airport every month, and they ask them questions about their customer experience and just their overall thoughts about our airport. And so because we have rated so high on the results of these surveys for so long, we were recently inducted into the Airports Council International Director General's Role of Excellence. And it's a lot to say, but it's a huge honor for us and speaks volumes about the hard work that staff has put forward, and also their commitment, especially during this last months of the pandemic. So I just wanted to let everybody know we're super proud of winning this award. Next slide, please. I also want to give you a very brief update on our 5K on the Runway event. As some of you may know, we traditionally hold the 5K on the runway in May, although this past year was a little different. Just due to COVID. We delayed the race until the fall with hopes that everything would return to normal. But when that was not meant to be, we decided to hold a virtual event instead. So what we did is we broke the race into two different components, a solo 5K and a distance challenge, and everything was done virtually. We kicked off the race on October 19th, which just happened to be our 103rd birthday of the airport. And we had in all 386 participants. 138 did the 5K, 45 completed the 103-mile distance challenge, and in all 203 actually completed both of those events. So we're very proud of all the participants and hope that next year we'll be able to hold the event live again on the runway. Next slide. Okay. I just wanted to remind you that we're active. The airport's very active, and on social media we have a crack team that routinely puts out information on Facebook, Twitter, etc. And so if you'd like to follow us live, please sign up at Dallas Love Field to receive the latest information about our airport. Next slide. I also wanted to remind you that we've created a new Good Neighbor Program Facebook group where we are posting items of interest to the community. I think we're up to about 40 people, and I would like to encourage you, or if you know anybody in the immediate vicinity of the airport, to join this group. The latest is we're trying to increase our outreach efforts with the community. Next slide. As I said, I'm in charge of the Good Neighbor Program, and on behalf of everybody at the airport, we really want to hear from you. And we have multiple ways of receiving your input. You'll see our program hotline. You can call directly into 214-670-LOVE, and it's actually answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with any of your questions, comments, or concerns. You can also email us directly at lovefieldgmp@dallascityhall.com. And last but not least, I wanted to remind you of our program website, thegoodneighborplan.com. This is actually on the Dallas Love Field website, and it's where we post all of our meeting notices and recordings and other information that actually pertains to this program. Next slide. So to sum it all up, we believe in being a good neighbor and want to hear from you. As was mentioned in prior meetings, the 2015 master plan identified landscaping, pedestrian crossroads, and buffers as the priorities. We've talked about it in prior meetings, but I would like to know if there's any additional things you'd like to see done in terms of community connections, and what else can we do that would make us a good neighbor? And that's really the purpose of the meetings. Next slide, please. So our director, Mark Diebner, let us present tonight, Cliff and myself. However, I know he's also very interested in hearing from you, and he wants to encourage you to contact him. That's his direct phone number that you see on the screen. And you can also reach out to him on any of the methods that I showed on the previous screen, or reach out to me through the Lovefield GMP at DallasCityHall.com website. Next slide. Now we're going to go to the question and answer portion of the event, and I'm going to turn it over to our PIO, Chris Perry, who will be moderating this section of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Helena. As Helena mentioned, my name is Chris Perry. I'm the External Communications and Marketing Manager here for the airport. So we got a few questions in advance, and then a few more that came in during the presentation. So we'll go ahead and go through the ones we got in advance, and then I'll read off the ones that we received during. So the first question we received in advance is, what is planned for the northeast corner of the Lovers Lane and Lemon intersection? So the only improvement to our knowledge at this time is the pedestrian and bicycle trail that's being proposed with the Lemon Avenue Streetscape Improvements Project. So some of that kind of gets off of what is airport property, but for us, the pedestrian and bicycle trail with the Lemon Avenue Streetscape Improvements Project. Next slide. But why is the second entrance needed? As Cliff mentioned earlier in the presentation, that project is kind of on hold right now. But along with the loop trail that he mentioned as well, I did post over on the side a link to the survey for the Bachmann Lake area. So, as we're answering this question about the second entrance, we are, Cliff mentioned, we are looking for more people to respond to that survey through the National Park Service and through the North Central Texas Council of Governments. So there's a link to that published in the Q&A. But back to the question, the alternate entry analysis was undertaken to address the security and operational risks associated with a single point of entry into Dallas Love Field, which is the nation's busiest medium hub airport. It's a very busy intersection, not just for those coming to the airport, but those commuting along Mockingbird Lane. And the only entrance to Love Field is through that single intersection at Mockingbird and Herb Kelleher Way. Mockingbird Lane is a busy artery through the city with more than 50,000 vehicles per day. And Herb Kelleher Way, during a normal travel time, obviously we're seeing lower numbers during the pandemic, would be about 28,000 vehicles per day. So that's a very congested intersection, and it often slips to the level service of F, which our consultants have told us is the lowest rating. That means the intersection is at failure. It'll take you multiple times through the light to be able to get through the intersection. And then during incidents at the airport, the intersection has long backups, sometimes preventing first responders from timely access to the airport. Severe backups occur when maintenance work requires lane closures on either street, significantly impacting airport operations. And the above, that issue that I just talked about poses security and operational risks to the airport in case the only entrance is blocked because emergency vehicles aren't able to reach the terminal. And that also creates issues for evacuation operations if we were need to put those in. So that's the whole reason that the alternate entry project was undertaken. But as I mentioned, it is currently on hold, but undertaken to address the operational security issues for the airport. Next slide, please, Hillary. Does Aviation's real estate department know what the plans are for the multi-acre vacant lot at 9311 Reeve Street? So this property is privately owned, that it's not controlled by the city of Dallas or Dallas Love Field. However, we are in the process of preparing lease documents for the city council approval to allow the city to use the property for 5 to 7 years as a staging area or batch plant, contractor automobile parking area, and other associated uses to support Love Field's airport, the runway reconstruction project. Next slide. Please confirm that all mature trees along Lemon Avenue will be protected and maintained as part of the Lemon Avenue Streetscape Enhancement Project. Landscaping plans for the Lemon Avenue project are currently in the design stage, and our goal is to protect mature trees to the greatest extent possible by meandering our trail around those trees. And as we get further into the design stage, we'll have more information about that. And so now I'll rattle off some of the questions that we received during. There were just a few, and as I mentioned, I did post those links to tonight's presentations, both in English and Spanish, to the Bachmann Lake area mobility survey, and then also there were a couple questions we received about noise. Noise and other environmental issues are those are handled through our Love Field Environmental Advisory Committee, and that group meets on actually this Thursday. It meets quarterly as well, and it meets this Thursday at 6 p.m. And so I posted a link to that as well if anyone wants to join that. So the first question we received tonight, this was in relation to the Runway Project, Cliff. How far out in advance are the mailers going to be sent to neighbors about the Runway Project?
I don't have a detailed answer on that. I can get you some more information, but when we did a environmental focus study and we developed new projected contours, we will be mailing out the mailer for everything that's impacted by the new contours. But I'll provide a more detailed response to include tomorrow. Okay,
thank you, Cliff. And all these questions, we are logging these, so anything we're not able to answer in completion, we will follow up. And you can also reach out to us with through any of the different avenues that have been offered. I know there's one there about the Trinity departure for the FAA. Again, that's a noise issue. The FAA generally has a representative at the meeting for the LFEAC, so that question would be better posed to them. Question here, Cliff or Aro may be able to answer this one. Is there a better rendering of the Lemon Bluffview roadway configuration? It is difficult to tell what the right turn from Lemon to Bluffview looks like. Will it still just be one lane, or is the dangerous hard right off of Bluffview to Hopkins going to be addressed?
This is Cliff. I'm not sure if the hard right to Hawkins is going to be addressed. I'll see if we have a better rendering. I know there's been some changes that have taken place, but there will be, I believe, just one lane there, yes.
Yeah, hi, this is Aro. In addition to what Cliff just said, that intersection is being, reoriented. So the free right turn that was an issue because of the high speeds will now be a signalized right turn. So you won't have the free right turn anymore. People have to come up to a light and turn right. So that will address the issues we were having with Hopkins Street. There'll also be more median as well as landscape area just there on the southeast corner of Bluffview and Lemon Avenue. So all those improvements will make it better for that intersection.
Thank you, Aro. Next question, Cliff, you may have this one, or this may be better for Mark, but Cliff, you may be able to help out. In the Brenna Center, is that where JSX is located in the new general aviation? And are those regular scheduled flights? And if so, does that count as a gate?
JSX is operating out of the Dalford facility, not the Branna facility, located, I think it's 7555 Lemon. They do now not count as a gate. They operate very similar to the way Rise does off of that operates out of Jet Aviation. It's more of a subscription service than anything else, and those are not considered operational gates.
Thank you. And then finally, we will get in one question about alternate entry. So is there any timeline of when we'll hear an update on the alternate entry project?
At this point, the Bachmann area project study is anticipated to take about a year. So that's really when we'll get back into it after that study's been completed.
Okay, thank you, Cliff. Well, that concludes the Q&A portion, and then also concludes our Good Neighbor Program community meeting for January 12th, the first one of this quarter, or 2021. I guess we're in quarter number 3 technically, but quarter number 2 rather. So our next meeting will be April 13th on 2021. We will decide, sometime here in the meantime, if that'll be virtual or an in-person meeting. Likely probably will be virtual, but we'll get all that out to you. Like I said, I published some links here to the Bachmann Lake Mobility Survey, to tonight's presentations, to the LFEAC, and then I'm also posting one right now about a survey on tonight's meeting. So we'd appreciate any feedback you can give us. I know it's a couple surveys, but certainly very important, and we want to hear how we're doing. So continue to engage with us. Our next meeting, like I said, April 13th. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thanks everybody for joining. Appreciate it.